Hello, and welcome back to the Integrative Therapist. This is a place where nervous system wisdom meets real life, the unfiltered, occasionally chaotic kind. I'm your host, Julie, a holistic therapist, storyteller, and someone who genuinely does usually enjoy the holidays. Right up until January shows up like a motivational speaker who did not ask if I was ready and available for change. Around here, we mix science with soul, humor with healing, and grounded body based insight that meets you where you actually are. So take a breath, drop your shoulders. You don't need to earn your place here. There's room for everyone at the table. Before we begin, just a gentle reminder, these reflections and practices shared are for education and self-support. They aren't therapy or medical care. Take what lands, leave the rest, and reach out for support in your area if you need it. You're never alone in this work. So I want to start with a tiny moment that feels painfully relatable. A couple days after the holidays, I was standing in my kitchen, staring at my Christmas tree, but not in that magical, twinkly Hallmark kind of way. More like, why does this tree suddenly feel like a part time job? And then I realized something. In December, the decorations feel like sparkle. In January, they feel like clutter. The exact same objects, the exact same lights, but my nervous system had switched seasons. It's like my body went, okay, cute. We did the festive thing. Now, please remove the sensory circus. So I started taking the decorations down, and every ornament felt like one less thing my body had to hold. I could feel the exhale move through me, slow and heavy. But here's the part that surprised me. The relief didn't feel energizing, it didn't feel releasing. It felt somewhat empty, but not in a bad way. In a way that something had finally stopped. The adrenaline of December had worn off, and what was underneath felt more like exhaustion, waiting to be felt. That's the holiday hangover. Not oops, too many drinks. More like oops, too many expectations, emotions, and demands. Too many plans, too many errands, too much stimulation. So today we're talking about the space between December and January, where the season ends, but the nervous system is still recovering. And we're going to talk about how to move forward in a way that actually honors where you are. So let's take a slow breath. Let's arrive together in the space and ground ourselves. I invite you to get comfortable. Ensure that you're in a safe spot to do this quick meditation. Begin by taking a slow, steady breath in through your nose and a long, unhurried exhale through your mouth. Let your breath soften your edges, the ones that may have been holding the season together. Notice how your body feels right now. Perhaps there's a gentle flutter in your stomach, a tightness across your chest, or a heaviness in your shoulders you've been carrying quietly since the holidays ended. Whatever here is welcome. You don't need to change it. Just notice. With each breath, see if you can allow yourself to arrive, not just in the space, but in this moment. After all the doing, the planning, the holding, let your awareness move gently through your body. Feel the support beneath you, the ground, the chair, the surface holding you now. Notice the rhythm of your breath meeting that support, like waves finding the shore after a long tide. If it helps, you can place a hand over your heart or your belly, bringing your attention to feel the rise and the fall. your body's quiet reminder that you are here, you are alive, you are breathing, and it's safe enough to pause in this moment. Now ask yourself gently, what's one thing my body has been trying to tell me lately? Through tension, fatigue, or emotion that I didn't have the space to hear during the busy weeks behind me. See if a word, a feeling, or an image arises. There's no need to analyze it, just simply listen. Your body always tells the truth. It speaks in sensations, not sentences. So I invite you to take one more slow, closing breath in, a long exhale out, allowing yourself to arrive fully in this moment. Take your time to settle in, and let's begin the podcast. Welcome. Well, December doesn't end just emotionally. It ends physiologically. That's in our bodies. For many of us, December runs on pure adrenaline. We stay up later, we override tiredness, we push through emotions, and we push them aside because there's just no time to stop. There are plans to keep, people to show up for, things to get through. That adrenaline is very good at allowing us to do all that. It helps us push past our limits in the short term, but it always asks to be paid back. And January is often the bill. When fatigue shows up, when motivation drops, when everything feels a little flat or heavy, that's not you falling apart. That's your body collecting on the energy it lent you. Here's a part no one puts in the brochure. The holidays end and the new promise, New Year glow-up energy does not arrive. Instead, when the noise stops and the pace slows, the body finally gets quiet enough to notice what it's been carrying. That's why for some, the days after the holidays can bring things like emotional flatness, even if nothing's wrong. Your social battery is still at zero. You feel behind before you even start. You often can experience decision fatigue even with the smallest tasks. You might want to cancel everything and move to a cabin or maybe a tropical island if that's your vibe. You feel a sense of heaviness, tension, puffiness, exhaustion, and your heightened sensitivity to noise, light, people, and messages is still very much present. If this feels like your inner weather, you haven't lost your way. You're simply resting between seasons. This isn't laziness. This isn't ingratitude. It's what happens when a system has been running on borrowed energy for weeks. And there's one more layer that we rarely name, but many of you feel it every day. January also comes with a little bit of a cognitive hangover. Your brain made too many decisions to count in December. What to buy, where to go, what to eat, who to see, how to manage family dynamics, finances, schedules, emotions, and expectations. That anticipation increases our dopamine levels. That's a chemical that's linked to motivation, excitement, and reward. So there's this natural buildup throughout the season. But when that season ends and we shift into January, that anticipation slowly resolves. The dopamine naturally dips, and even small tasks can start to feel weirdly hard. Not because you're unmotivated, but because your cognitive bandwidth is simply depleted. Psychologists call this decision fatigue. So the more decisions we make, especially those emotionally loaded ones, the harder it becomes for us to focus, initiate tasks, and tolerate complexity. You might notice it as procrastination, irritability, brain fog, or that strange sense that things, even simple, can feel very overwhelming. And again, this isn't a character flaw. It's simply a nervous system and a cognitive load issue. December is very cognitively expensive, and January inherits the bill. A tired brain doesn't need more discipline, doesn't need change, doesn't need reinvention. It needs less demand. And that flat feeling many people may notice in January doesn't mean something is wrong or missing. It's that nervous system recalibrating after a peak. The low that follows isn't failure, it's a normal neurochemical reset. Your system is trying to return to baseline after weeks of heightened stimulation. And this is where January can get very tricky. Less demand is not a part of the menu. As a new year comes a new you, new marketing, new goal culture, new diet culture, new productivity culture. It's like January turns into a collective self-improvement boot camp. But here's where there's a mismatch. Most of us are still tired. Most of us are still recovering. While the outside world is asking for reinvention, your nervous system is asking for restoration. This isn't a personal failing, it's simple biology. Motivation isn't a personality trait, it's a nervous system state. When your system feels safe, supported, and rested, motivation becomes more accessible and available to you. But when your system is depleted, stressed, the brain does something very intelligent for you. It shifts toward conservation. So when that dopamine is low, the brain will prioritize rest over ambition, safety over striving, and stability over expansion. And then add winter into the mix, if you're in those regions that experience that, and you're dealing with reduced daylight, colder temperatures, disrupted routines, cumulative stress, and the picture becomes clearer. Shorter days affect serotonin and melatonin, the systems that help to regulate our mood, our sleep, and our overall energy. So if your body wants more rest, more sleep, or slower mornings right now, that is not a weakness. That is simple winter biology doing exactly what it's designed to do. So when we put all this together, the cultural pressure, the biological slowdown, the depleted nervous system, something important becomes clear. January isn't just asking us to do more. It's asking us to do more at the exact moment that our systems have the least capacity. And this helps to explain one of the most common January experiences of all, why so many New Year's resolutions quietly fall apart, and why that has very little to do with your willpower. A large percentage of New Year's resolutions don't even make it past February. Depending on the study, estimates range anywhere from 70 to 80%. That statistic is usually framed as a motivation problem, as a discipline problem, as a follow-through problem. But when you look closer, it's often a timing problem. January asks for change at the exact moment, as I mentioned, when our nervous systems are depleted, our energy is low, light is low, capacity is low, and from a physiological perspective, this all matters. Research in psychology and neuroscience shows that behavior change requires available energy, not just emotionally, but biologically. Self-regulation, planning, impulse control, and follow-through, which are all important key functions in order to make changes, they all rely on the brain's executive functioning systems, which are all very highly sensitive to fatigue, stress, sleep disruption, and low dopamine availability. So when those systems are taxed, the brain does something, as I mentioned earlier, very intelligent. It moves into that conservation mode. So what this means is that when the resolutions don't stick, it's often not because the goal was wrong. It's because the season and your system couldn't support it. From that seasonal and biological perspective, January has never been a natural time for reinvention. Historically, winter was always a time for conserving energy, reducing output, resting and repairing, and surviving until the light returned. Spring, not January, actually is the season that aligns with that rising energy, that improved mood, that increased dopamine availability, and that outward movement. So when January asks for discipline, transformation, and reinvention, and your body responds with fatigue, resistance, or shutdown, that is not sabotage. That is biology telling the truth about what your capacity is. And when we stop interpreting that response as a failure, something can soften inside us, and perhaps that pressure will lift and a space will open up for a different kind of beginning. Not one built on force, but one built on capacity. I invite you, instead of forcing motivation, let's do something a bit more honest. Let's locate your starting point. So, for a moment, step outside of the question, what should I be doing? And step into, where am I actually starting from? This relates to capacity and taking a look at where your capacity is starting from. Asking yourself, where is my capacity at right now, realistically? Not where you wish it was, not what you could do on a perfect sleep, perfect energy, and with perfect circumstances, but today, here, and now. And as you sit with this, notice what your body tells you. Does your body feel tight or spacious, heavy or alert, already full or quietly available? There's no right answer here. This is just information, not judgment. So starting by looking at your capacity. And now let's think about support. So what is one thing that would make this month feel more supportive for you? Not impressive or productive, but simply supportive. Something that would help your body soften, even just a little. Something that would make the days feel less heavy and less braced. Notice what comes up first for you. That initial response is often the most honest one. And we also want to look at the carryover. So taking a look and asking ourselves, what am I carrying forward from December? From even November and beyond that. This isn't about blame, it's about context. It might be exhaustion, grief, overstimulation, financial stress, emotional weight, family dynamics. Just naming it matters because context often softens a shame. If you're still carrying a December load, it makes sense that January feels heavy. Nothing is wrong. Your system is still processing. So before we talk about goals or plans, I want to pause here because January doesn't need overhauls. It doesn't need reinvention, and it definitely doesn't need another version of you to manage. What January often needs is small signals of safety. Tiny resets aren't about fixing yourself. They're about helping your nervous system recover its footing so energy, clarity, and motivation can return naturally. Think of these as micro permissions, ways of telling your body we don't have to do everything all at once. So I'm going to offer a few that may work beautifully in this holiday hangover phase for you. Again, take what feels right, leave what doesn't, and choose other things that may be coming to you. So the first one is the domain rule. So if your brain wants structure, give it one place to land. Choose one domain to focus on this month, just one. Whether that looks like health, home, money, relationships, work, mindset, not all of them. Your nervous system loves focus. It calms when it knows where attention is needed. It gets overwhelmed when it's dragged into 5 different new versions of yourself at once. This isn't about neglecting everything else. It's about reducing internal noise. One domain says this is enough for now. And for January, that is enough, and that is plenty. So the next one is choose one stress loop a day. So our nervous systems are wired to track unfinished things. Open loops, even tiny ones, create background stress. Instead of trying to do more, aim to complete one small thing a day. Whether that be reply to one email, pay one bill, make one appointment, or finish one lingering task. Completion is regulating. It tells the brain, whew, something ended safely. That sense of closure builds quiet confidence, not through motivation, but through relief. The next one we're going to chat about is called the 2-minute exhale reset. This is one of the simplest and most effective resets you can use, not only in January, but any time. A few times a day, bring awareness to your breath. Take one inhale normally, but then allow your exhale to be longer than your inhale. No force, just a slower, fuller release. Even use counting if that helps for you. Inhaling to 4, perhaps exhaling to 6 or even 8 if that's available for you. That longer exhale instantly activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And what this does is it sends a message to the body saying, we're not in fight or flight. There's no emergency. We're not being chased. All is well in our system. You can do this anywhere, at your desk, in the car, in the kitchen, before bed. It's a quiet way of saying to your system, you're safe enough to slow down. The next one is the less input day. There is so much stimulation every day, definitely over the holidays. So moving into January, when our system is working on restoration, it's important that we pick maybe even one day a week where you intentionally reduce those sources of stimulation. That could look like less social media, less screen time, less noise, less information. December floods our system with input. January is when the body tries to catch up and to process it. Less input gives your system space to integrate, to settle, and to reset. Rest isn't passive, it's restorative. And January restoration is the word. Because the moment you start moving slower, listening more closely, or choosing less, the world has a habit of asking for more catch-ups, more check-ins, more plans, more productivity, proof that you're back. And this is all a part of that cultural demand. So part of honoring this season isn't just resting, it's creating enough space around that rest for it to actually do its job. That's where boundaries come in, not as walls, not as rejection, but as gentle containers that protect your energy while your system recalibrates. If January comes with catch-up pressure, it is okay. It is okay to give your permission to say, I'm keeping things simple this month. I'm working with the season and my capacity. I'm not taking anything extra on right now. Boundaries aren't harsh. They're your capacity translated into words. And when you let your boundaries match your biology, something softens. The nervous system stops bracing, and rest actually lands where it needs to land. So as we close off this podcast, I want to leave you with this. If you're feeling flat, tired, or overwhelmed right now, you are not doing the new year wrong. Resolution culture tells us this is a moment to reinvent ourselves, to optimize, to push forward. But biology tells a different story. Motivation isn't missing, capacity is. Because winter was never designed for constant striving. It was designed for recovery, for conserving energy, and for surviving until the light returns. So if your goals feel quiet right now, if your resolutions feel heavy or out of reach, that is not failure. That's your body being honest. Let this be your permission to start this year differently, not from force, but from capacity, not from pressure, but from care. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening and for letting yourself arrive just as you are. So next episode, we're talking about Blue Monday and seasonal depression, not as labels, but as signals. We'll explore how light, energy, stress, and seasonal biology shape mood and motivation, and why what you're feeling right now makes sense. This won't be about pushing through. It will be about understanding your nervous system and what your body and mind are responding to, and how to support yourself through one of the hardest stretches of the year with honesty and with care. If winter's been weighing on you, if you felt slower, flatter, or more tender than usual, that will be a conversation for you. Thank you for being here. Until next time.